Sino-Soviet Relations. So it all started with the Civil War in China. There was a bit of a civil war between the nationalists and the communists through the 1930s. There was a truce for a while, and then it started up again in 1945 when the nationalists and the communists kind of like banded together to get rid of the Japanese. But once they left, they turned on each other. You know how it is. That always happens. You know, you have your common enemy. So you put aside your differences for a while, and once you kick the guy you like's butt, you turn on each other. It's the way of life, you know. But basically, when Japan withdrew from China at the end of World War II in 1945, the Kuomintang and the Chinese Communist Party once again turned on each other. Now, take note for a parallel here. In World War II, Russia and the USA, they had teamed up to defeat Nazi Germany. And as soon as Germany got pawned, basically, the USA and Russia went right back to really not liking each other. In 1949, the Civil War ended with Chairman Mao becoming the head honcho. Mao, as a leader, and his relationship with Stalin. Okay, Stalin wasn't exactly keen on Mao's approach to communism. Mao did not interpret the Marxism movement like the Soviets did, because the Marxism movement said that workers would lead an urban-based class war. Down with the privileged. But Mao saw the peasants as the revolutionists. So you can see like a bit of a dissonance right there. Mao and Stalin didn't get along because they kind of didn't really trust each other. And I'm going to quote again. Mao became convinced that Stalin wanted a divided and weak China to leave the USSR, dominant in Asia. Like, he was afraid that Mao would become a better communist leader than he was. We have the Sino-Soviet Treaty of Alliance, which is actually such a con. I'm sorry. Because the Soviets, first of all, were reluctant to sign the treaty. And then, second of all, they gave really annoying terms. Like, they would give aid to the Chinese, but then they would have interest on it. You know? Right, here's a bit about the Korean War. Stalin had encouraged China to, jump in to the Korean War. And China was a bit, ticked off when the weapons and materials that the Soviets had supplied them had to be paid for by the Chinese. They got conned again. And so Mao, Khrushchev, and the split. Khrushchev did this thing called the secret speech, where he kind of denounced Stalin and like his whole, I forgot it was, cult of personality. And Mao saw that as kind of like a diss to him. He thought that Khrushchev was actually dissing Stalin to diss Mao. Mao saw all the Soviet problems in East Germany and Poland as failures of the USSR. And the whole peaceful coexistence thing did not go down well with Mao. Mao had this thing where he really did not care. If China got nuked, so what? There were like a bajillion other Chinese running around to replace the X amount that got bombed. So to back down for fear of losing X amount when you've got X amount more, to him just did not make any sense. Mao thought that the Soviet Union was now dominated by revisionists, meaning those who stray from Marxism. Just say hi. Come on, roommate. This is my roommate. Hi. She judges me for this.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
She judges me a lot. So yeah, just a little tidbit about the People's Republic of China. Their strong viewpoints and grounded stance in their beliefs made the PRC, People's Republic of China, seem to be the real Communist Party. This can be seen at the Conference of Communist Parties. I cannot be bothered to tell you about it because I actually have not taken any proper notes on it. Shame on me. Anyway. And now for some much-needed comedy. Khrushchev visiting Beijing. Mao went out of his way to make Khrushchev's life hell, okay? Khrushchev's hotel room had mosquitoes, it was hot, it was nasty. A lot of their little meetings would happen at a pool. Mao's a really strong swimmer, Khrushchev isn't. And I think something in here said his swimming trunks were too small. But yeah, it was an uncomfortable experience to be Khrushchev in Beijing at the time. So, pretty much all their talks were not productive. So every time they always said that the Soviets betrayed the international communist movements. They were viewing themselves as the only true Marxist-Leninists, which, funnily enough, is kind of what the Chinese were doing too. And the Soviets had sent spies posing as technical advisors into China. I don't know what that's about, but clearly it had been bothering them. 50s. Look at my roommate being a creeper. 유진아! 유진아! 완전 잘함. Moving on. Taiwan in 1958. China wanted Taiwan really, really bad, and they were really, really pissy that the USA and such wouldn't let them. In response, the PRC bombarded islands off Taiwan in the early 1950s. And then in 1958, Mao ordered a buildup of troop maneuvers in the region. That would be Taiwan. The U.S. responded by preparing for war with China, as per usual. But Mao did not launch an attack. He did not have the support of this. Khrushchev accused Mao's regime of being Trotskyist. There was no actual definition of what Trotskyist is, except for that a Trotskyist supports the ideals of Leon Trotsky, and Trotsky was Stalin's rival. That really doesn't help me at all, so I don't think it helps you at all either. But there you are. I tried my best. The Soviets saw Mao's lack of understanding for political reality. Which is pretty funny because, well, he wanted to get the whole world commie by force, even if it meant nukes being fired. He didn't actually care if China got nuked, hence my little thing before about him not caring, because, you know, if X amount die, there's still like X bajillion more left. To conclude, Taiwan, the effects of the Taiwan crisis were damaging to Sino-Soviets, withdrew their economic advisors, and canceled commercial contracts with China. Basically, China was getting a little too psycho for the Soviets to handle. The Great Leap Forward, otherwise known as Epic Fail. Basically, mountains on the Soviet Union. So he came up with the bright idea of having agricultural and industrial sectors of China developed rapidly at the same time. So what happened was pig iron. Small backyard steel furnaces were installed everywhere. Everyone became obsessed with making this pig iron, and so they used up pretty much all their fuel and metal objects on. As a result, China's harvests rotted in the fields as peasants focused on making the worthless metal, often out of basic essentials such as their own pots and pans. The epic fail that is known as the Great Leaps Forward, yeah, get just a little bit more on that. Starvation. As I mentioned earlier, crops rotted in the fields. People were starving. They didn't have food. Chinese records stated that 14 million Chinese died in the famine. However, some Western sources say that it's around 30 million. And Mao would not let anyone know about this failure because he did not want the humiliation of the outside world knowing the results of his great economic plan. That's not good leadership skills right there. Oh, my objective role. I'm getting a little too subjective here. Whew! Mao finally stepped down as state chairman of the PRC in 1959. However, he kept his position as chairman of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So he was still, you know, leader dude. But the reason why he stepped down was so he would not be held responsible for this epic fail. And wouldn't you know it, the Soviets think the Great Leap Forward is stupid as well. They said it was faulty in design and erroneous in practice. Mao was personally furious at this criticism because he knew they were right. It doesn't say that, I just threw that in. He was really humiliated because it was rumored that Marshal Peng, PRC Chief of Staff, had told the Soviets about it. So now China hates the USSR, and they will now be chummy with any commie party other than the USSR that's kind of against the USSR. So that will lead us to China being biffles with Albania. So, Albania. Basically, China was getting desperate. They wanted a friend really, really bad. PRC offered Albania to replace Soviet money and technical assistance. This conflict led to the final severance of diplomatic relationships between PRC and the Soviets. So basically, after years of on again, off again, on again, off again, they finally broke up. I'm sorry, sometimes relationships just don't work. I have a little bit of a battle of words moment here. It's quite funny. Khrushchev referred to Mao as the Asian Hitler, and a living corpse, while Mao called Khrushchev a redundant old boot. I think Khrushchev kind of won this here because his insults are a little bit better. But I just have to say, kids, name-calling gets you nowhere. Okay? It just gets you it gets you a sentence in a history book. That's it. And it's about there that I stopped taking notes in my book.